It's a good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy, back with Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews Show, where I brew a version 1.0 deck list to the commander in front of us on my quest to brew the magic world. Today, we're officially starting Foundations, and I'm so excited. Foundations is a really fun set. I think there's a lot of really cool things in Foundations. Great reprints, great new support, great old support for old tribes. And we're looking at one of them today in Rin and Seri. There's a ton of fun cat support in Foundations, and so we'll do more. We'll do other cat commanders, of course. We have one more coming this week and more in the following weeks. But I think as of late, right, I think the most popular cat commander has been Rin and Seri, right, with the value that it provides and that deck that just came out. So I thought, why not do it first, update it, give it some love, and then we'll carry on and do some others. But we're talking about Rin and Seri Inseparable, a 4-mana Naya 4/4 dog cat. So whenever we cast a dog spell, we're going to get a 1/1 cat. And whenever we cast a cat spell, we're going to get a 1/1 dog creature token. And then for Naya and tapping Rin and Seri, we can deal damage equal to the number of dogs we control to any target, and then gain life for the number of cats we control. Now, there's a lot of ways we can take Rin and Seri, but I think the way that I've always seen, in my mind, the way Rin and Seri working best is focusing on one or the other so that you can take advantage some more of the tribal synergies. And I think what makes the most sense to me is focusing on the cats, because then you're making dog tokens every time you cast a cat, and you're going to have a nice Rin and Seri damage outlet. The other thing is that we get to play changelings that are both dogs and cats that'll give us both, right? And allow us to really take advantage of our numbers that way. We're going to pay off making tokens, because not do just playing cats and dogs make you tokens, but there's a lot of cats that actually make tokens when they enter the battlefield, so we can use that. And then, of course, we're in Naya, so we're going to talk about doing that combat thing. But I think the real reason I personally want to play Rin and Seri is the cats, and there's a lot of fun cats new and old. We get to play a Johnny from Modern Horizons 3, making that cat when it comes in. And then whenever one more cats we control would die, we could flip a Johnny over and can put a counter on each cat we control. The 0, I think, is some of its best ability to make a cat token. And then if we control a red permanent other than a Johnny, we deal damage equal to the number of creatures we control at any target. A good way to just dome an opponent for hopefully some big damage. And then looking at the new Arabo, the first Fang, one of our new cats we got access to, and a great one, buffing all other cats. And then where it or another non-token cat comes in, we make a cat token. Here's a way to, again, just keep that token train rolling, getting more of them. And I think in all reality, to me, Arabo is going to be a great way to make this board go wider than you think it's going to over the course of a couple turns. Kihira, we're not playing as our companion, because not every creature in our deck is a cat. We do have... I think we have 1 or 2 non-cat creatures, so we can't play it as our companion, but it's still a great card, giving all of our cats +1/+1 in vigilance. It is a cat, so it is going to get us that dog token. King of the Pride, buff all our other cats. Great ability. And then we get to play Kutzel. Both Kutzel and Sovereign Akanek Howl from Lost Caverns of Ixalan, both great value engines in themselves. Kutzel, his opponents can't cast spells during our turn, which is great. That way someone doesn't try to remove one of our creatures on our turn when we're trying to do the things we want to do. And then whenever one of our creatures with base power greater power than their base power deals combat damage to a player, we draw a card, because we refill our hand. Well, we're probably, again, we have a lot of these effects that just buff our cats, meaning we should have lots of opportunities with Kutzel to draw. Miri's a fun option, because we're going to want to be attacking with it as a 3/2 with first strike, and then when she attacks, each opponent can't block with more than 1 creature. So that means the wider we go, I mean, the better our attacks are going to get, right? Because our opponents can't block. And then as long as she's tapped, not more than 1 creature can attack you each combat, which should hopefully help us not get hit hardest back, right, on the backswing. Prideful Parent, one of the new commons from Foundation, comes in and adds a cat creature token. Again, 3 mana gets us Prideful Parent, a 1/1 cat, and a 1/1 dog with Rin and Seri out, and that's a lot for 3 mana. And then Regal Caracal comes in with 2 cats and then gives all of our cats +1/+1 and lifelink, a great thing. The really nice thing about that lifelink is that Rin and Seri deals that damage, so this could actually give lifelink to Rin and Seri, meaning we're going to gain a ton of life when we activate its ability. Skyhunter Strike Force, giving all of our creatures melee, which is great when we're starting to attack and getting into the red zone and hurting our opponents. Sky Knight Squire, a new one from the new set I really like. 2-mana 1/1, but it gets a counter whenever another creature we control enters. Not non-token, just any other creature comes in. And then as long as there's 3 more counters on it, it gets flying. So it's going to become a threat, once you put a few counters on it. What I really like is that Foundations gave us a reprint of some of the cats from previous sets that have that have actual flying in them. Some of these Sky Hunter cards. So now we have a couple cats that are going to be threats just because they're in the air, and our opponents are going to have to deal with that, not just all of them being on the ground. Sovereign Akaneka How is one of those cats that's going to help us grow our entire board. When it attacks for each creature we control with power greater than that creature's base power, we put a number of counters on it equal to the difference. This is going to start growing our board when just things like melee or +2/+1 from King of the Pride on our cats is just going to start growing them, and they're going to become a problem in combat that our opponents have to deal with. But it's not just the cats, and I think Changelings are where Rin and Seri takes what I think is good about a cat deck in general and really pushes itself forward, because now these count as cats and dogs. You're getting so much value, right? You're getting 2 tokens if Rin and Seri's out. And then they're not bad bodies on their own. Avian Changelings, a 3-mana 2/2, not bad. Posture of 6 Prides, a 2-mana 3/1, again, not bad. A regular cohort, 4-mana 2/2 that brings a 2/2 in with it. And again, also, counts as a cat and a dog. The nice part is that token is a shapeshifter as well, so it's a cat and a dog as well. And Rin and Seri, counts the number you have. So if they count for both, they're going to count for both of its abilities. Mirror Entity counts as both. It can raise the power of all of our creatures. Universal Automaton, a 1-mana 1/1 that's going to make 2 tokens, with Rin and Seri, and then same thing with Woodland Changeling. So I like these Changelings ideas of getting multiple tokens off Rin and Seri and growing the board wider and wider each turn. But there are so many cats that just care about tokens, and they're great. We got Ginny Fae. Whenever we would make 1 or more tokens, we can instead make that many 2/2 green cat creature tokens with haste or 3/1 dog creature tokens with vigilance. I like Ginny Fae for a couple reasons in the deck. One, instead of making a 1/1 cat or dog, we now have our choice of whichever we want. Even if you still want to keep your parity, of getting a dog when you play a cat and getting a cat when you play a dog, you can just make a bigger one of those tokens instead of 1/1s and give them extra abilities. That could be beneficial. Or if we needed to go all in on cats, make a bunch of cats with haste, then they can attack that turn. I think you can see where Ginny Fae really takes Rin and Seri's general effect and can make it better. Ocelot Pride is a beauty, especially in combination with some of our cats that can gain us life, even with Rin and Seri's ability, to tap and deal damage and gain life. It's as a beginning your end step. If you gain life, you make a 1/1 cat. Then if we have the City's Blessing, for each token you made this turn, you make you make a copy of it. So we have a big turn where we cast a couple cats, use Rin and Seri, deal damage, gain some life. We're getting copies of all those things, and you can start to see where you can build a nice board state. Probably the Steel Legion is going to buff all of our creatures, giving them +1/+4 on our turn, which is nice when they go start attacking. A 1/1 becomes a 2/5, and that's a lot better than a 2/2 in a lot of attacking situations where people may be wanting to trade into them. Asika's Chariot is going to come in and make 2 cat creature tokens, and then whenever it attacks, we can make a token that's a copy of a token we control. Again, a great ability just to continue growing the board over the courses of a turn, and it's not a bad attacker or blocker if need be. Caretaker's Talent gets us that draw once per turn whenever we make a token. Level 2 can make a copy of a token we control, and then level 3 gives that buff to the whole board. We don't have a ton of way to make a token on everyone's turn, but I really like that we should for sure be getting tokens on each of our turns, meaning that this Caretaker's Talent is going to give us that draw every turn. And then War Leader's Call gives a little bit of that damage, 1 damage to each opponent every time a creature comes in, and that little bit of a buff. I think it's important to play some sort of these Impact Tremor style effects, because we're going to have so many tokens coming in over the course of turns that we want to get that chip damage in when we can. And I like War Leader's Call because it adds the buff, to all of our creatures, which can pay off with so many of our other creatures that we have. But at the end of the day, it's not just about making the tokens, it's about getting stuck in. And I think this slide right here of these 3 cards is a good representation of some of the ways that our deck can do it. In the middle, you have one of my favorite commanders of all time in Jetmir, Nexus of Rebels. Once you hit 9 creatures, your creatures have Trample, Vigilance, and Double Strike. A great way to end a game very quickly, and Jetmir does a very good job at that. Beastmaster Ascension. Whenever you attack, you put a quest counter on it, and if it has 7 or more quest counters, all of our creatures get +5/+5. A good way to turn every single one of those 1/1s into a threat. And then Enduring Courage is the only reason technically we can't play Kahira as a companion because it is a dog, but it's still a dog, so that matters for Rin and Seri. But it says whenever another creature comes in, it gets +2/+0 and haste until end of turn. This is really nice because then as we're playing all of these creatures on our turn, we give them the option to unlock haste and be dealing damage the turn they come in instead of just waiting around. And I think that's important. We're not trying to go all the way into haste, but I think it's important to have options for it as we build our board state. Cathar's Crusade's a great finisher for a lot of creature decks. The more we're putting in, the bigger our creatures get, and it doesn't take more than a turn or two for Cathar's Crusade to get completely out of hand. I think Feldar Retreat kind of plays a dual role in our deck. It allows you to put a counter on each creature you control when a land comes in and give them vigilance on the turn, kind of give you a little bit of a alpha strike that turn to attack, or just make a 2/2 cat beast. I think both of those are great options, especially when so many of our cards care about cats. And then Inspiring Leader, right, to just give all of our tokens +2/+2 as long as Ren and Seri's out is really good, right? Turning our 1/1s into 3/3s. I think it's really important. Same thing with something like Intangible Virtue, just giving all of our tokens vigilance. Again, let them attack and block, become threats on both sides of the ball, and just make sure that we're always pressuring our opponents instead of just tapping out to attack and then being wide open. Shared Animosity, I think, is going to get good in a deck like this where we're going to be putting cats and dogs, right? We're going to be playing the cats, but we're also going to be having the dog tokens and giving each creature we control when it attacks +1/+0 for each other attacking creature that shares a type with it. Means that our cats could be getting conservatively +4, +5, +0, on each combat, which is something to deal with, especially once you start giving them trample or any other evasive ability, or even lifelink, or all these other abilities. You could start to see where Shared Animosity could make blocking a bad decision for our opponent. Maybe they feel like they have to now when they have a 6 or 7/1 coming at them. And then Virtual Loyalty is really there to just give us that vigilance in those counters. Make sure that if we have a wide board state, that every turn they're growing, that they're becoming a problem for our opponents and they have to deal with us. They can't just let us sit there for a couple turns, that we're going to keep growing and keep becoming a threat for our opponent. But I've said it before and I'll say it again in the show. No deck's ever complete. This is my version, 2.0 shot at Rin and Seri. We've brewed it on the channel before, but I think there's a lot to learn in brewing this time around, which is how are the new cats performing? Do they do their job? And then what do we need more of? I think all 3 cards on this screen are cards that I think are slam dunks into the deck. 2 of them are just based on price. At the end of the day, we do try to have some budget, and I was trying to make sure that we featured some new and old cats alike. And the other, I think, just makes sense on its face. Brimaz is a great cat. It does a great job at getting you a 1/1 cat, whether it attacks or blocks. It's a great value engine, but even with its reprint, it's still sitting at almost $20. And so the question is, I think it'll probably come down once Foundation's Jumpstart actually releases, but $20 for one cat is tough, especially when $20 could buy you most of a Roaming Throne or most of other things. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of options there, and I just wasn't sure. Coat of Arms is a great card. I love Coat of Arms. We have some other options with things like Cathar's Crusade, which is thankfully now cheaper than the card like Coat of Arms. But, do we need more of that buff? Would more of that buffs help us more games out of 10? And then Court of Embereth just, I think, makes a ton of sense. When it comes in, we become the Monarch. Beginning of our upkeep, we make a Knight. And then if we're the Monarch, it deals X damage to each opponent, where X is the number of creatures we control, which, again, seems like a slam dunk. But the problem is we got to be able to keep the Monarch. If we could keep the Monarch, then I think Court of Embereth is a slam dunk. But it's about keeping it and maintaining it, right? And making sure that you're staying on the gas pedal. And if you can, then I think Embereth seems like a slam dunk for what we're trying to do. Let's get into our playtests. Let's enjoy it. Keeping a 4-lander with Virtual Loyalty, King of the Pride, and then Imposter. So the thing that I think is hard about Ren and Seri when we're looking at our sequencing is, how do we decide whether we play things before Ren and Seri comes down or after, right? Because it'd be easy for me to just slam Imposter or Leland Skyhunter this turn, but I kind of want to get the dogs, right? I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like that's what Ren and Seri is trying to get us to do, right? Pay the cats to get the dogs. So it's going to look weird in these first few turns because we're playing these cards, but the truth is, that makes more sense this turn. The truth is, we we don't want to play the creatures just yet. You know, I could make the Knight token there off like loyalty if I want to, but the truth is, like, I really want to get Rin and Seri going down, right? So then I can start getting dogs of everything I'm casting, and we're growing better. We'll go get the Jetmir's Garden here. It's going to make for a little bit of an awkward turn 5 here, right? Because before we drew that card, we didn't have anything to play, but thankfully now we have this automaton, right? Which is going to get us the 1/1 cat, get us the 1/1 dog. So now we've got a great portion there, right? We're all getting the buff from Flowering of the White Tree. Rin and Seri is getting a little bit of protection. And now we could start, you know, pushing our way forward, right, through what we want to do. On turn 5 here, right, we're a little bit slow. So, I mean, at a higher power table, we might be getting some threat here. But at a lower power table, I think we're probably in a great spot. Question is what we do. Right now, Rin and Seri is only dealing 2 damage or 3 damage, right, because it's a dog, and we're gaining 4 life. So not bad if we want to do that, but I kind of think I want to commit to the board more. I think Sovereign makes the most sense, because then next turn we start gaining a ton of counters, right, on all of our creatures. We could do something like King of the Pride or Imposter, right, to get more value. I think there's a lot of ways we could take this. I kind of like the Sovereign, get another dog. Now, next turn when Sovereign attacks, we're going to start getting counters on everything. We can take the attacks this turn if we have it. It might feel odd to be taking so many turns and not really getting in the red zone, which I feel like is what a deck like this does so well. But hey, something like Flare of Fortitude feels great, because now we have some protection. You know, we could sack a creature to protect our board. But I think here I really want it to be loyalty. I really think Virtual Loyalty makes the most sense here to untap them all after combat. They're all going to get 1 counter right now because of Flowering the White Tree, and then Sovereign and Rin and Seri are going to get 2 +1/+1 counters because of the flowering. So I feel like untapping them all and giving them another counter is a great way to use our turn. We have the Flare in case we need to protect the board from a board wipe. So we go to combat, right? Attack. All of them are going to get 1. Sovereign and Rin and Seri are going to get 2, right? Because they have +2/+1 because of the flowering. And now, you know, not a bag attack. You know, maybe we lose a counter. Maybe we lose a token, or 2. But the point now is then at our end step, they all untap and get another token. We have the Flare. And I think if we had to use the Flare, I think I'd let Sovereign Akaneka go, just to protect the board, keep the board state there, because we can always replace more bodies on the board. Remember, it has to be a non-token white creature. So that feels pretty good. I mean, that attack was pretty good, and we're getting ourselves set up. And on our next turn, I think I'd want to try to use Rin here, because we've got 4 dogs, right? Now, if I can get a creature down for 2 mana, maybe something like the Imposter, right? That would get me a cat and a dog. Now when I tap Rin, we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage. I'm gaining 9 life. That feels perfect, right? We gain some life back, and then we'll go to combat. You know, Sovereign's going to attack again. Now everything gets even more counters, and you can start to see why Sovereign, I think, will just break this game open for us. We still have the Flare of Fortitude, and now we have the Imposter to get rid of instead of Sovereign to give ourselves that hexproof and indestructible. And then, right, end step, they would untap, all get counters. And I think you can kind of see that this process is going to keep going, where we keep using Rin every turn as we're growing this board. Player counter to every turn. Hopefully we can get 1 or 2 more mana if need be. But I think I'm content with this board state. Now we have some removal if we need it. We can hopefully draw some more protection. And I think we're kind of off to the races in what we're trying to do. But let's get into playtest number 2 here, because I think we're kind of getting into what we want to see there. 3 mana with a Cultivate, Solid Pride Mage, some removal and wear and tear, and then Tarian Mauler, another changeling that, again, is both a cat and a dog. We'll get the Path of Ancestry in tapped. Of course, nothing we can do turn 1 with it. Turn 2, I actually don't think there's anything we can do, because all 3 of our lands are going to come in tapped, right? So we'll just get it in tapped. We can leave up the 1 white for tear if need be off the Path of Ancestry, but otherwise, I think we're just going to look to get into next turn here. So I'd play the land. It's going to come and untap. So, I mean, I could put something like Caretaker's Talent down, but I'm kind of thinking of just cultivating. Go get a red source. Not that we have too many red cards. Not that we have too many red cats in the deck, but I still think it's important to have a second red source. And then I'm thinking least one double white in our hand, but we do already have a white. To couple white down. I'll get a forest, I guess, to hand. Okay, we already played our land for turn, so it's not like we can cheat that, cheat that in this turn. But again, I like that. I think it's a good way to get our mana set up so that turn 4 here. 4 mana plus the 1. I mean, I don't think there's anything we can do with that extra 1. So, I mean, I'll put the Jetmir's Garden in tap. We'll go ahead and play Rin and Seri, scry 1 off the Path of Ancestry, seeing a mirror entity. Again, another changeling that can get us a dog and a cat. I think it's important to leave on top. And that completes that turn there. We'll go up to 6 mana. We could double changeling, but it actually, I think, might make more sense to go Caretaker's Talent into one of the changelings. Probably something like Tarian Mala, right? So we can see our opponents cast some spells, put some counters on it, get it growing, make a couple tokens, right? Because it is both, and then draw a card. Now we have this draw engine going. I'm just going to put this counter so we know what level it is. I like this. We set up potentially using Rin and Seri next turn if we want to, but otherwise I think we just continue to try to get pieces on board. I think the goal with Rin and Seri, to me, is try to have enough mana to always use Rin and Seri's ability each turn, but still commit more stuff onto the board. So, like, Rootbound Crag going to come down in untaps. We've got 4 mana. I could go 2 cats in to get 2 dogs, and we would still get a card draw. Or I could go something like Mirror Entity, which is going to get me 2 cats and 2 dogs in only 3 creatures, right, where those get me 4. So there's other options. Let's say Tarian Muller's probably sitting at a couple counters on it by now. Like, I like the idea of something like Kasali Pride Mage, because then you have the option of its removal. But I could see Mirror Entity being really good as well, because it counts for both, right? It counts for both cats and dogs, making sure that... So if we do that, right, we're making a cat and a dog. That would draw us a card. And then now Rin is dealing 4 damage to our opponent, to a target, and we're gaining... 5 to an opponent, we're gaining... for 5, but we're gaining 5, right? Which feels great. Right, that feels pretty good to me. Leave a mana open, I guess, just for the wear and tear. Take some attacks this turn. Maybe something like Tarian Mauler takes the attack, since it's going to have a little bit of on it. It'll come into our next turn. The Tarian Mauler probably gets a couple more counters. I mean, that's kind of irrelevant. Now I think what we're trying to do is find a way to get, right, maybe into the red zone. Get a little bit more going as far as damage goes. We haven't seen any of our big... kind of get stuck in enablers. Mirror Entity is not bad. It can put the base power and toughness of all our creatures up to X. And gain all creature types. So that's kind of nice for Ren, right? Because then it would be 7 and 7 for both. Got 5 mana. Let's think. What? Sky Hunter, make a dog. Draw a card. Oh, Mass Vandal's kind of nice, because that can come in and make a dog and a cat. And then now we can do Ren. Ren's going to deal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to a target. We're going to gain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 life. So that's good. Right now that ability is scaling up. We can get into combat this turn with Tarian Mauler and some of the tokens if we want to. But I think right now it's the fact that we have them that makes more sense than anything else. I guess we could have gotten the scry there off of Path of Ancestry. But we'll go one more turn. I think, right, all we're missing is just the benefit, right, of that. Everything Comes to Dust is a fun board wipe in the deck, because it says exile all creatures that don't share a creature type with a creature that convoke the spell, all artifacts, and all enchantments. This is kind of interesting, because we could convoke a couple cats and dogs to this. Exile all creatures. All our cats and dogs are gonna be safe because they share a creature type. And it could be a fun one-sided board wipe, right, for our opponents. Let's tick up the Caretaker's Talent and make another dog. Try to draw cards, see what we can get. 3/3 City. Okay, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I could literally do that, right, in 2 white. Probably just nuke the board of our opponent's creatures, and leave some room for us to get in, right, and some attacks. And we still have, Rin to use that turn to still dome somebody, gain some life. And I think other than that stuck in that combat piece, I feel like we're in a good shape. All we need to do is just get into it. We have the way to draw with Caretaker's talent. I think there's other options here to get there. I mean, we have things like Mirror Entity that, let's say we untap next turn and don't find it, leave 3 up for win, 1, 4, 5, 6, put 6 into Mirror Entity, make them all 6/6s, and then we have a big attack, right? I think there's a lot of ways we could take a board state like this instead of that turn instead of everything is dusting, we could have done that. 6 in a Mirror Entity, make them all 6/6s, and swing, right? And I think Mirror Entity can kind of act as that get stuck in piece as well. But I think that's a good place to stop there. I think we've kind of seen what Rin and Seri can do for its own ability, plus kind of building the board. But I'd love to know, what do you think of Rin and Seri? I'd love to chat with you about the deck down in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys next.